Welcome back. Some comments coming in from Dr. Subara. OMOs, on OMO participation, OMOs intended to manage liquidity, not yields. Clarification essentially on how liquidity would be managed given the OMO auction. Timing of OMO depends on the liquidity situation. In the meanwhile, talking about a completely different space, and that's telecom. The next round of tariff hike for telecom companies could happen in the broadband space. Sources say India's largest telecom company, Bharti Airtel, could be the first telco to hike broadband tariffs. Gauri Dwivedi now joins us with exclusive details. What are you hearing on this matter, Gauri? How much tariff hike are we looking at?
We are talking about this hike, which could be pretty substantial. In fact, sources tell us that Airtel could end up hiking broadband tariffs by about 50 rupees on a broader basis per subscriber. That is pretty significant because till now, broadband is a space that has been largely untouched as far as tariffs are concerned, tariff hikes are concerned by telecom companies. The entire game has been in the 2G and then, of course, recently in the 3G space. But what now it looks like is that the next round of tariff hikes could really be in the broadband space, and in fact, sources tell us that Airtel, which claims to have about 7 million subscribers, will have a hike across the board, which will be in the range of about 50 rupees per subscriber, which ends up being about 35 crore rupees, and that is something that is likely to be followed by other players as well. Reliance Communications and Tata Teleservices are the other two players who have a substantial presence in the broadband space. Now, the reason and the trigger really as far as hiking of broadband tariffs are concerned is that license fee has been increased from this year onwards from 6% to 7% and will be increased again next year from 7 to 8%. And that is something that telecom companies feel should be passed on to the customer, because remember, broadband is not a pure vanilla voice service. Clearly, the customer has an appetite for a higher bill, which is why companies feel it should be passed on. In fact, Airtel is the first one to do so. They will hike tariffs, and in fact, in certain pockets that has already been done, Airtel has said that certain amount of tariff hike has already begun as far as broadband space is concerned. We are likely to see a much broader based hike in broadband tariffs going forward, something that is of course likely to be followed by competition as well.
Okay, Gauri, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining us today and giving us that perspective. We'll take a view on the telecom space with Ambrish, but just quickly, TVS Motors, the sales, July estimates, and we were estimating the units to be around 1.6 lakh units versus 1.68 on a month-on-month basis, so a 5% odd kind of a downtick that has come in for TVS Motors for the month of July. No great surprises out there from TVS. Pretty much no great surprises from any of the other companies as well. Tata Motors as well, while may have delivered just slightly above what the polls were suggesting, but no great surprise that has come about. TVS Motors just about flat in today's session. Ambrish, take them one by one. Well, let's start off with auto sales, then go on to telecom. But what's the view now of the two-wheeler space? Because they're showing divergent trends. Hero MotoCorp is distinctly weak, yes, but how do you view TVS, Hero, and as well as Bajaj Auto?
All of them more or less in the same basket. I think TVS will be the weakest even going ahead. And if you're talking of the next at least 3 or 4 months, I still see the sales continuing to be weak going ahead. So at these levels, I surely not recommend any of the two-wheeler stocks. But at surely lower levels, I think you should pick the best of the lot, which is Hero.
You have a sell call or a trading call on a Hero MotoCorp, Mitesh. Any other? I mean, a TVS or for that matter, a Bajaj Auto. Is there a trade there?
Neeraj, we had a buy on Bajaj Auto a few days back, and the stock actually met the target of 1620, which was the 200-day average. TVS is looking positive. It's kind of going through some kind of base building around the 37.5 mark. Good chance that we might actually see some kind of an up move happening and the earlier highs of 41 being tested. Possibly if it starts trading about 39, I think I'll look into it. There's a good chance that the overall setup might turn as positive.
What about some of the other Adani Group stocks, Ashwini? One, an Adani Power, which is holding out despite a terrible set of numbers, and we'll come to Ambrish for a fundamental check. But I believe you had a call on Adani Ports earlier on in the day. What's the call really? Adani Enterprises has moved up. Adani Power is fairly stable at these 43 kind of levels. Is there a trading opportunity in any of the three stocks?
Well, when stocks move up on terrible results, chances are channels are the last ones to know them. So, some sort of a pullback is starting on Adani Power, which could lead it up to 53, 54, but remains in a deep downtrend. Similarly, Adani Enterprises can get back towards 210, 215, but again sell on rallies. Adani Port is probably a different case, not as weak as the other two, but even here, can't see it getting past levels of 135.
Ambarish, what's your call on Adani Power?
Adani Power, in fact, I don't have much of a view, but Adani Enterprises, yes, clearly I think the balance sheet issues is what has taken toll on the stock price. But the way things are, possibly we could see some sort of a small bounce back, but surely going back to those levels which we saw last month of that 230, 250, I think is going to be a bit difficult. I mean, we could see 195, 200 levels.
But it's just been a dismal performance by Adani Power, mind you. In this quarter, EBITDA misses the target by close to 400, 450 crores and a cumulative loss of over 800 crores. I'm not sure how much of this is a recurring loss and how much of this is a one-time, but 809 crores hasn't been the best of performances by Adani Power on the numbers. So the revenues may have gone up. 15-20 crores is the kind of sales that they have posted. But yes, the bottom line leaves a lot to be desired. The operational performance leaves a lot to be desired. We hope for some things to happen right for the power sector, but a couple of these stocks are seeing some intense pressure the last few sessions, Adani Power being one of them.
Yes, indeed. Ambarish, would also want to get your perspective on whether there's a conclusive trend building in sugar right now. Is it, again, one of those times when we're going to be looking at a sporadic rally?
I don't think there'll be a rally in sugar. I mean, you could have some short-term moves, basically based on the sugar prices, which are still holding on and decently strong. But I think the worry is clearly on the crop going ahead and the sort of output which we could see in the next season. I think that is what is putting pressure on the sugar stocks, and because of the sort of poor monsoons which we have seen, I don't see much of an upside, as far as the sugar stocks are concerned. Like I've been saying, I think a stock like Renuka, we could see possibly an upside of 35, 36. I think going beyond that will be very difficult for the stock.
Right. Mitesh, come to you on some trading strategies at 255. Would also want to bring your attention to mid-tier pharma. Is there an opportunity there?
I'm not sure of, buying into mid-tier pharma. We had a view on Dishman. I think, it's now closing to levels of 84, 85, which is our target. I think the stock will possibly hit those targets in the next few days to come by. For the 255 call, I've got a buy on L&T. I think, it's just breaking out of the earlier consolidation. I think this one can be bought at the stop at about 1364 for a price target of 1420 on the upside.
Ashwini, what about you?
Well, I think sugar has started some kind of a fresh move. So, given the market, you don't want to get into very high value stocks. So maybe, Bajaj Hindustan you can buy with a stop about 29, look for targets about 38.
Okay, that's the call on a Bajaj Hindustan. That's moved up in trade, as has Balrampur. I think even Renuka would have just given a little bit of an uptick in today's trade. So sugar is looking okay in trade. I tell you what, we take a very quick break. Just before we actually do that, Tanvir was asking about Dishman Pharma. And just pertinent to point out that stock because it's moved up 11% yesterday after almost an 8% up move that we saw on Dishman Pharma in yesterday's trade. It's a strong show given by the company in the session, in the last two sessions, to be honest, and a strong operating performance as well that Dishman Pharma showed in the quarter gone by. Amrish, did you have a chance to look at it? Because operating margins expanded some 800 bips on a YOY basis, 323 bips on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So strong operational performance and a 25% rally in a matter of 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah, but then I suppose this is only the beginning of the rally because I would say it is another Cipla like this stock has been down and out for the last 3 years after we had an extremely good performance before that. And this stock is to quote at levels of 200 plus, and from there we saw levels of about closer to 35, 40 sometime back. So I think with the sort of performance it's shown now, the sort of performance it has shown last quarter, I think that will continue for a while longer. And because of which I see this as stock again possibly getting back into those 100, 120 levels.
Okay, stay on, gentlemen. Lots more to talk about. We'll take a very quick break, come back with more news, more updates, some closing strategies. the big volume buzzers in trade as well as what trading rooms are recommending in the last 15 minutes of trade.
The main reason why the stock is all the more under pressure is because of the premium valuations that it enjoyed. So while the operating metrics to my mind are normalizing, even though they might look under pressure, they are normalizing to more longer term, to more sustainable levels over the longer term. The valuations also have to normalize, which means that the stock can be looked at much steeper declines. For the time being, one can expect at least another 10 to 20% correction in the stock, if not more. Since Cipla doesn't have the more exciting one-offs which Dr. Reddy's or Ranbaxy might have in the overseas markets, because its business model is fundamentally different, it's more of a steady business where you have to look at how the domestic volumes will grow and how the formulations business will grow. So I think considering that, Cipla is more of a 12 to 15% compounded story, which means that the market may not be too excited to give it a multiple of more than 22 or 23 times, which means a 10% or more of a re-rating from here. But that's significant even from these levels.
Okay, we'll just quickly take a view on TVS Motors as well. Amrish, didn't have a chance to ask that one to you. You just saw the monthly numbers as well from TVS's table. How did you read into them? I mean, they've gone down close to 4 to 5% on a month-on-month basis. Not the best of performances by TVS.
I mean, if you see the whole of last 1 year, it's been like a underperformer in that pack. And especially when you expect the two-wheelers overall not to perform, there is no way, I mean, I could ever recommend people to buy the biggest underperformer in the sector. That's the reason I said, I mean, when we have most of the stocks coming down, Hero is the best buy, but surely not TVS at any point of time.
So there's a fire at the paint shop in the Hosur plant of TVS Motors. Don't know what the nature of this one would be or how damaging it would be to the operations at the plant. And hopefully there has not been any kind of human casualty out there. These days we're kind of quite used to getting these news, unfortunately so. But yeah, there's a paint shop at the Hosur plant for TVS Motors has caught fire. We just pray that there are no human casualties and hopefully the damage is not too high for TVS Motors. But the stock naturally so just about coming off in